Now you ask ourselves, what is a born-again conscience that God has given us? The depth to love. So, the summation. Now, if you turn to the Bible, you can read a lot, you can know a lot. But the summation of God's instruction, that is to love. Right? Simple. To love God with your whole being. To love man. To love your neighbor as yourself. But let's understand, to love first. You don't worry about, Pastor, how much can I love? You don't worry about that. To love first. To love is the motive. To love is the heartbeat of a born-again conscience. Before you even start thinking about, doing certain things right, saying certain things right, before you even get into this, you must ask your heart, is your heart right there to love? Because Christ came to love us. Simple. Christianity is, you just go to the roots and understand what is the basis, what is the motive. That is to love. Nothing else. And therefore, anything that we do to people that is unloving, we will just prick our conscience straight away. So we can start to see here why prayer for people is at the top of Paul's list that we must do in order to keep a clear conscience. A lot of times, you ask yourself, what pricks your conscience the most? If you ask me, that is my inability to love. Our inability to love our spouse, our children, our brethren, our parents, when we start grumbling against people around us, or hold grudges against them, we felt the prick in our conscience. Because why? Because to love is actually Christ's DNA. Right? It's his DNA. But then, you may say, Pastor, we can never love enough. We could never love like Christ did. We are always falling short of that love. That's why we're always struck in our conscience. That's why God wants us to pray for them. You get the link? That's why God wants us to pray for them. Now, by praying and interceding for others, we are actually setting our motives to love. By praying for others, we are actually acknowledging how limited we are. So we are entrusting that person to God's help. By praying for others, in the midst of praying, we will internalize the love of God. So, you ask yourself, what stops you from praying for others? You don't have to feel bad or feel accused about not loving someone else the way or the degree Christ has loved him. But when you set your heart to love a person, you start praying for them. No matter how small your love is for that person. We are always struck there, I feel very accused because I see that someone can love, the brethren so well, sacrifice for them, but for me, you start praying for them. You start praying for your brethren. And then Paul says here, listen up, you listen to what Paul said. He instructs us to pray for the kings and all those in authority. Now, when you read that, who do you think of? Those in authority. Those of you who come from work, my boss, my superior, first person you think of. Then kings, you start to think of the government, the PAP. You understand what Paul is saying? Now, he is trying to tell you now, imagine during those times, who want to pray for the Roman king? Who want to pray for him? No one. No one in the right mind would want to pray for the government. Because the government just objects to hatred and prejudice and complaints. Usually it's like that, But here Paul said, that's why all the more you pray for them. Because he is not advocating altruism. He is trying to tell you that having a good conscience before God, whose motive is to love, whose motive is to give thanks to God for everything that he has given us, and that is you pray for the person, for the office, for the government that whom no one will even think about praying for. This is how Christ came to love all men. He is telling you the motive to love. You know, he is not trying to be gung-ho, okay, altruistic, pray for government. This is the pure love of the Calvary cross. So, everything that he has given, if you believe his love, that everything that he has given you, even the government, even the bosses and superior above you, you know, you will pray for them with a pure motive. You will intercede for them. And then your conscience is clear.